I am on. Welcome back, Silver and Blue Nation. This is Jeff Freeman with Mic'd Up with Jeff. I've been on a little hiatus, but I am back. It's good to be back with my fans, my Silver and Blue Nation fans, man. And it's been a lot going on, and I missed a lot, but we're gonna catch up. And man, I'm right now. I'm looking at these playoff games. I got the Chicago Bears on, and the Rams, and man, it just makes you think about, just how, you look at these teams, they got great defenses, they got good systems in place. You got Matthew Stafford with the Rams, you got Caleb with the Bears, you got all these NFC teams, right? Look at the NFC West. You got the Seattle Seahawks and with their well-oiled machine. They got a great defense out there. They don't give up. Man, looking at them play the San Francisco 49ers, man, they jumped all over those guys, man. And that defense, man, they look rough. That NFC West looks rough. But look at this. They got a system in place. You know, look at San Fran. Look at as they even though they got smacked down, they had a lot of injuries. But look, they got a system out there. They got a system with Kyle Shanahan. He put a system in place. The McVays in the world, they put a system in place. And then you look at the Seattle Seahawks. They got a system. That's what the Cowboys have been lacking for over 30 years, man. A system, Silver and Blue. Man, and it makes me think, if the Cowboys would have made I'm gonna ask you, if the Cowboys would have made the playoffs, do you think they would have made considering what they had on defense, you think they would have made a run deep in this playoff? I think not. I think not. And see, that's what's been plaguing us, man. You look at Seattle, right? Let's just look at Seattle. They lost Geno Smith. You know, they had some pieces on defense, but they didn't have all the pieces on defense. But they got back. They fell off for about a couple of years. They weren't competitive. But they bring in DeMarcus Lawrence, and man, look at their defense. Look at their defensive line. They don't give up anything on defense. They don't give up anything. And look at McVay. Look at McVay. Man, they've got Matthew Stafford there. They fell off. They lost Aaron Donald. They lost some pieces on defense, but they retooled. They put pieces back in place. They put them back. And guess what? They back playing to get into an NFC championship. And San Fran as well. They lost all pieces. Man, their receiver quit on them in IU. Quit, man. They got all these injuries. They got all these things, but they put the pieces back in place, man, on defense. They just got systems. And it just seems to me, it's just like when I think about it, it's like the Cowboys are always late to the party. The party is over when the Cowboys get there. You know, I didn't really coming into the season, I didn't really think that we were going to, I predicted like a 9-win season. They didn't quite get there, but they were second in the East, but they made some, the Joneses, they made some offseason moves. The Michael Parsons trade, that was pretty solid to get those number one picks. You brought in Quentin Williams, you got Kenny Clark. It was unusual. The moves that they made this year was very unusual move. In past history, they've never really made that many acquisitions like that during the season. But man, you late. You kind of late. You let Eberflus. You kind of squandered. I ain't gonna say kinda. Dak had a great year this year, and you squandered the performance of that offense. You brought George Pickens in. You got a run game. Offensive line was good. They were scoring points, but we could not stop anything on defense. And you didn't really address it. You had Eberflus in there just constantly, every week in and week out, trying to force this system on players that couldn't grasp it. Or you didn't have the personnel to, run this system on defense, and they got gashed week in and week out. And so it's a lot to think about. Hopefully, with this new defensive coordinator, they currently looking for a defensive coordinator. It's not about the shiny object, the person, you hear all these big names, that's out there for defensive coordinator, man. But you got to get this right. You got to get this right with the right fit, the right person, the right fit to fit the personnel that they currently have or what they're going to bring in. And you're going to have to be able to compete with the Seattle of the all the NFC West. You're going to have to be able to man, them defenses they are rugged. They got monsters out there. And they're not giving up anything. And looking at this team this year, they just couldn't really put it together, man. But I told y'all in the beginning, you had to temper your expectations with this team, but with that aside, Shoddy, he's building something. I think he's got it. He built a solid foundation. That's what I would say this year, that it was a solid foundation built with the Cowboys, but it's a lot of work to do as far as putting this defense together. But what's the pain, man? Silver and blue. Let's be real, man. Let's have a real talk, man. What's painful? I hate when I see a lot of players that played in Dallas and they just go to other teams. You can look at DeMarcus Lawrence. Shout out to DeMarcus Lawrence. And he's with Seattle. And I'm looking at him, man, and now he's been a hand in the dirt, got defensive end all the time that he was with the Cowboys. Now they got him standing up out in Seattle, and he is wrecking havoc, man. He looks slim, like he done lost weight. Man, he's like the second coming of DeMarcus Lawrence, who we also lost, that went on and won the Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos. But it's just crazy, man. It's just painful to watch because D-Law said, man, look, I ain't gonna win a Super Bowl here. I'm gonna go to Seattle. I feel better with Seattle. And now, lo and behold, man, his dreams about to come true. They in the NFC championship game, and he's about to, he's one step away of playing for the chip. But not just him. You got players on the Chicago Bears. I forgot. I looked on. They had a list of the players that left here. It was like 5 or 6 of them that's in the play. That's currently in the play. That played in the playoff. That was on the playoff team. I remember Jordan Lewis. We got rid of Jordan Lewis, and he was in the playoffs, but we got rid of him. And man, they could have paid him, a decent salary. I don't think he was trying to break the bank, but he's a nickel corner, and we could, that's what we needed, a nickel corner. For some games, we didn't have a nickel. He was holding it down. So, that's the only thing, man. I just, it's just kind of, it was painful to watch that, but that's the past, and now we got to look to the future. So let's talk about the NFL draft. What are your thoughts on the NFL draft? What do the Cowboys need to get? What should that number 12 pick be in the NFL draft? What should that pick be for the Dallas Cowboys? Now, like last week, they had there was an announcement. DJ Moore from Oregon, from the Oregon Ducks, he stated that he was going to stay back in Oregon. He's not coming out for the NFL draft. Now, he was projected silver and blue. He was projected to be number 1 overall and number 2, but that because of that performance, I believe in the college playoff, he felt that he needed to go back. And also, I'm pretty sure Oregon threw him a nice compensation for coming back for another year. But why I mention him is because Moore staying in Oregon is gonna kind of throw, in my opinion, it's gonna throw the order off. This is as far as the draft picks, because you don't really have a strong quarterback class this year. There's a lot of these analysts out here saying that this quarterback class is not really, really strong this year. And that's not a good sign for the Dallas Cowboys having that 12th pick, because a lot of these teams, if they're not going quarterback, they're going, when in that top 10, if you don't watch that NFL draft, if you're not familiar with the NFL draft, that top 10, you want to bring impact players in, whether it's a quarterback or edge rusher, you want to, those are the hot commodities or the hot type of players that these teams want to get in there. So you got a DJ Moore that's not coming in, but you have Mendoza. He's going to be there. He'll probably be the number 1 pick overall. Mendoza from Indiana. DJ Moore not there. So guess what? These teams are going to go and get edge rushers. They're going to get impact players on that defensive side of the ball. So looking at our pick at 12, it looks like, because we need safety help, we need linebacker help, and Caleb Downs has been the name from Ohio State that's been popping up a lot, and that's on a lot of draft boards, on these mock draft boards that the Cowboys was possibly going to make a run at. But I don't. It just made it harder because DJ Moore has stayed at Oregon. So you got Reuben Bain, you got David Bailey, these edges out of they are projected as top 10 players. And I don't, it just makes things difficult because of that one move of DJ Moore staying. These guys are going to be available, and there's a lot of teams that need defensive help. But tell me your opinion on who the Cowboys should take at that 12th or 20th pick. Tell me. I'd like to hear your opinion about that. But man, it's a lot. The Cowboys got a lot of work to do. They made some strides during the season, and they got a lot of decisions to make in the offseason. One decision is Terrence Steele. I was reading today that Terrence Steele may be a casualty of being cut. Terrence Steele didn't really have a solid season. I mean, he didn't have a terrible season, but he, and didn't really, for what they are paying him, what he's getting paid, he didn't really have a great season. And I think, there's a possibility they might let him go at right tackle. And so with that being said, you got Terrence Steele, you got Javonte Williams. They got to decide what they're going to do with him. Are they going to bring him back? Which I think they should bring him back. He had a great year, outstanding season. He should be comeback player of the year because he definitely, coming off those injuries he had, definitely made a good push for to remain as a Dallas Cowboy. George Pickens, GP, you got to bring him back, and I don't think it'll be a good idea to franchise tag him. You gotta pay your players, man. And we talking about systems. Let's lay a solid foundation with these guys, and let's let's make them feel appreciated, Cowboy Nation. That's the problem that we've been having, man. They with the Joneses, they just they have their way of doing business. It rubs people the wrong way, and it's just like you shoot yourself in the foot. Every year, it seemed like every year coming into camp or uh coming into the season, there is some kind of scandal or some kind of contract discrepancy, contract problems, with players and stuff. And it seems like the Cowboys can never get off on the right foot in the beginning of the season. So hopefully this will change with Shoddy this year, and they can get these guys in. So you got a 12th pick, you got a 20th pick. Max Crosby, they've been saying Max Crosby forever coming in, so, hey, bring Max Crosby in. But Max Crosby alone is not going to fix this defense, man. It needs impact players. It needs some depth. It definitely needs some depth. So you got Logan Wilson, you got Agent Zero, you got Maurian Overshown at linebacker. Hopefully when they bring in this defensive coordinator, whoever this guy may be, and, you got Flores, you got people naming all these big names, man, but it's more about the right fit. You need to bring the right fit at defensive coordinator with the players that you have. Eberflus, he was forcing his system on, and these guys just didn't perform. You just didn't perform, and they couldn't fit in. They didn't understand. They were lost. We all know they were all over the place. But you got to get the right. They got to get this one right as far as this defensive coordinator. You got to get somebody in there that can get the most out of these guys on defense. Got some pieces to work with, but it's a lot that they need. And so, with that being said, what is your thoughts, Cowboy Nation? What are your thoughts on where they need to start as far as building this defense and also putting a system in place? Do you think the Joneses, you think the Joneses are going to put a system in place so we can match up with some of these teams out here, the Eagles of the world, majority of all the NFC West, man? Because right now, looking at this team, it's a lot of needs, man. And looking at these playoff teams, man, they just are not there. And not saying they can't get there, but they got a lot. They got a lot of work to do, Cowboy Nation, to put this team together to make it more, to get back to respectability, And yeah, I love to hear your thoughts, man. I know it's been a while, but I'm not going to take no hiatus like this again. You're gonna see more of us. You're gonna see more of me. And man, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And hey, it's been some great football, man. So I'll be back with you to talk about the upcoming draft and also these playoff teams and the Super Bowl. Till the next time, my friends, it's been a pleasure, Silver and Blue Nation, and I'm signing out. So long, and I am out.